La vida secreta de Walter Miller es una de las películas más importantes de este año. Yo me encuentro con su protagonista principal, el señor Ben Stiller, que es actor y director. Hola.
Hola.
Un placer. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with you.
Let me begin telling you that it's one of the greatest movies I've seen this year, or probably the last years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
I
you,
really
man.
love the movie because when you get in there and then when you connect with the characters, you just feel happy, you feel connected, you feel like you want to live.
Yeah.
That's what you had in mind when you approached this project?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wanted it to be, people to have a feeling, to connect with it somehow. And, I felt like the story, was something that was very relatable to me, and I hope to other people in terms of the idea of, that we all have this idea of who we want to be in our head. And we have these sort of grand ideas of, how we see ourselves, but then in reality it doesn't quite translate. And, the movie's about a journey, about a guy trying to find himself and connect with himself. And so I'm glad to hear that you connected with it.
Yeah, it feels and it looks like a very personal project for you. You fought for this for 8 years to get it done. Why was it important for you to get this message across?
Well, I mean, for me, to be able to make a movie that sort of isn't a specific genre and that has humor and emotion and adventure in it and all these different aspects to it, it's hard to do that. And I think in the studio world where you're not making a little independent film, it takes a lot of convincing. So, ultimately it has to be something that you feel passionate about, and any movie you direct, you have to feel that connection with it because it's a long process, and I felt very lucky to have that feeling about this and to want to see it through.
From the beginning you decided you were gonna direct and act in the movie, or you just gamble it along the way?
No, I was, I first was sent the movie as an actor, and then as I started to, when I started to work on the script, I felt very connected to it as a director. And for me, I'm never looking to act and direct at the same time. It's not something that it's kind of inefficient, and it's sometimes it can be frustrating because you're stuck with yourself, But I felt really, cinematically there was a real opportunity to do something really, for me, that was exciting, and I felt very inspired to want to do. So I asked if I could direct it.
How do you think you have changed from Reality Bites to now? What's the difference along these years?
I think I've changed. I mean, it's been 20 years, so I'm 20 years older.
You should have.
Yeah, life has happened. I feel like I was almost not a different person, but I feel I've had so many experiences in life. I think at first I was very, when you're young and you're starting out, you have a sort of a blind, sort of naive sense that you have an idea how to do things, which is sort of good because it gets you to actually be able to do them. But then really, the older I've gotten, the more I realize I know less. And
really?
And I think hopefully, that's a good thing. I think humility is a good thing. I think life's experiences will continue to teach you lessons about that, which are good. I have a family now, and priorities are different, and 20 years older, you look at life in a different way when you're looking at where you're going to be in 20 years from now. So I think I'm happy that I'm where I'm at now. Where I was at then was where I should have been, but I'm happy where I am now.
You've done pretty well.
Thank you. Thanks.
So it's great. Tell me, when you were talking about the movie or doing the movie, when you said it to your wife or your kids, I'm gonna do a movie about what? Because it's very hard sometimes to explain what is Walter Mitty's story about.
Yeah. Well, I knew the story growing up, so I was familiar with it. And some people are, and some people aren't, because it's sort of a famous short story.
Yeah.
But the simple idea is about the guy who's a daydreamer, a man who has these incredible daydreams, but his real life is pretty mundane. And then he decides that he has to go out into the world for a reason. He has to do something, and he's also trying to connect with this woman, and he's really trying to find himself, I think. And that, to me, that's how I describe the movie. It's sort of like a journey of self-discovery, but hopefully it's funny and kind of an adventure and sort of, everything.
As you said, it's hard to categorize this movie. It's a comedy. Yeah. Let's put it like this: it's a great movie.
Thanks. No, I'll take that.
That's a perfect explanation.
But it is hard, and I think that's part of the process in getting the movie made, was trying to, let everybody know what kind of movie it was going to be. That it was going to be kind of one of those movies where hopefully it'll just, fall in to being a good movie, but it'll have a lot of different elements to it.
Which of the stories, the space out stories, do you relate the most, or what was the hardest to film?
Well, I mean, in terms of spacing out, I relate to that because I space out a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Especially when you're making a movie, I think, because when you're making a movie, you're thinking about the movie all the time. But in terms of like shooting the fantasies, probably, I think that the harder stuff was really the stuff we shot in reality when we went over to Iceland. Getting out into the ocean and shooting the stuff in the trawler and the helicopter and all that. That was probably like the most challenging. And then also shooting up in the mountains and getting up to the glacier and where we were shooting the scenes with Walter trekking. That was all. It was fun, but it was challenging.
And it was actually on location. It wasn't CGI.
No. It was all location, and then there's CGI in the film that I used to augment things and to try to embellish things, or hopefully in ways that you don't notice it as much. And obviously there's CGI in the fantasies.
Yeah.